On show 469, the Elon Road is nothing to do with Tesla, the BMW i8 Roadster, and Mercedes EQC on sale. All those stories, many more, and your question of the week being answered this week. Coming up on today's podcast. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're listening around the world. Welcome to EV News Daily. It's Sunday, 12th of May edition. My name is Martyn Lee. I go through every EV story that I can find in a day, then I filter them down. I pick out the ones I think you need to know about, and we answer your question of the week every Sunday, so I read out your answers, your emails, your messages as well. Reading a story today, was that InsideEVs? I was reading that on about a Tesla that got rear-ended and caused $28,000 worth of damage. Holy moly. When a damage is that big at $28,000, you have to ask the question, maybe you should just buy yourself a new Tesla, but what can you get for that money? Well, for $26,000, how about buying yourself a Tesla Model S 85? I was having a look on myev.com today, and there is a 171,000 mile Model S on there for $26,000. It's in Eagle Mountain, if you want it, under warranty until December 2020. And these kind of offers just don't exist here in the UK. I would love to be able to get even a really high mileage Tesla of any kind for that kind of money. I don't even want to do the conversion to UK pounds because it would just depress me. You get like free lifetime supercharging with these older Teslas as well, and just looking at the description, like new motor under warranty recently, all new brakes and rotors, new steering components done under warranty. 171,000 miles, and got plenty left on the drivetrain warranty as well on that. It's just, if you live in the US, you are so lucky to have these cheaper used EV deals. I know this is from 2012 and this is super early, but consider yourself buying a piece of Tesla heritage by buying an early one as well. There is literally nothing. I'm not even going to look on the UK website. There is nothing that I can buy as cheap as that. But spare a thought for the person that did get almost $30,000 worth of damage done to their Tesla when it was rear-ended. Oh, by the way, if you didn't know, MyEV do sponsor and support this show, so thank you very much to the team there. Check them out for buying and selling EVs in the US. At least you are lucky if you have that resource. Well, thank you so much to two new patrons that I've been looking forward to thanking. By the way, firstly, thank you to Michael. Michael Kaleo is a new producer of the podcast and signed up midweek earlier this week. And a huge thank you to a new Patreon partner of the show, and that's Blake. Now, Blake Boland, who, if you follow Blake on Twitter, is at EV Life Ireland. Well worth a follow on Twitter, at EV Life Ireland. Congratulations to you, Blake, and your partner on the new addition to your family as well, a little while ago now, but sent me a lovely note to say that what with the new addition to the family and all those kind of things, wasn't in a position to support on Patreon. And that's the thing, you don't have to, it's entirely optional. Look, if you do want to, I'm enormously grateful. And yeah, this podcast is, a lot of work and time, and it's usually done at the end of the day, and the sun's gone down and dinner's been had, and I'm normally working late into the night to do it. But you know what? Thank you so much, Blake, for your support and becoming a new partner of the podcast, even for just 1 month, would be amazing. Well, let's talk about how battery electric vehicles, and if you are new to the podcast, by the way, there's lots of different kinds of electric vehicles, like plug-in hybrids. They have a plug, but what we call pure battery electric vehicles, either ones that have a range extender or just survive only on their batteries. Sales of all electric cars, we call them BEVs, BEVs, in Europe, Western Europe, growing really strongly so far this year. The BEV market is exceeding 2% compared to 1.5% in the record year of last year, says Mark Kane for InsideEVs. With more than 100,000 sold in the first 4 months of the year in Europe, we're now on track for more than 300,000 sales in 2019. In fact, the industry analyst, who is Matthias Schmidt, talk about someone who is well worth following on Twitter, points out that April was the 6th consecutive month of sales above 20,000. Hopefully, new models coming on the market. We'll talk about one of those very soon with the Mercedes. Growth is going to continue. In fact, I love this stat. Every 50th car sold in Europe is now pure electric vehicle. I love that. Only going to go up from here, isn't it? The Elon Road is hitting Sweden, and actually, bizarrely, is nothing to do with Elon Musk. But it is called the Elon Road, and the first kilometre of the Elon Road track is now being installed on a heavily used bus route to recharge electric buses as they drive, says Clean Technica. Well, the rail system itself is easy to install into the road since it rests on top of the pavement, the tarmac. No asphalt or concrete actually needs to be dug up. Well, if a car drives 1 kilometre on our electric road, they say, it can drive another 2 kilometres on the energy that it got from charging on the road. So it makes a total of 3 kilometres of driving. You pay for 1 kilometre of installation of the track. All that's needed is adding the contactor device to the underside of an EV, and then you can charge while driving. Well, the advantages of the system are many, assuming the Elon Road is widely available. EVs, if you could charge while you drive, could then have smaller batteries. Of course, batteries are the heaviest thing in an EV. And the most expensive. Smaller battery, lighter battery, charge as you go. It makes sense on many different fronts. Researchers at London University estimate the Elon Road systems could permit electric cars to use 80% smaller batteries. And of course, that's good for the resources being dug out of the ground to make lithium-ion batteries. There is a little bit of common sense to kick in here, though. And yes, I do understand buses and trams that do the same route and they can use those chargers above them. What are they called? Are they called pantographs? Have I made that word up? Somebody will correct me. And yes, they can charge as they go. For cars, for personal transport, I can't help but think, and bearing in mind, I'm just an idiot on a podcast, I can't help but think that charging as you drive just isn't the way forward. Charging at home overnight, charging at work, and spreading that load when the grid needs to, that all seems kind of sensible. That all makes sense. It lines up in my head. I get that. Charging as you drive, I don't know if we need to do that. You know, batteries are hardly in rich supply at the moment. Batteries are the thing holding EVs back. They literally can't make enough of them. They can't build enough factories quick enough to make the batteries inside them. However, putting track into the road and then retrofitting all the EVs with little contactors underneath them, I'm not sure that makes sense. But we'll keep an open mind. I'll pop a link to Clean Technica in the show notes. Well, I got an email this week from one of my listeners, Renee. Hello, Renee Schneider. I took these pictures today, she says, sending me some snaps. Really big Tesla charging hub is the biggest in Switzerland. It looks finished, and it's 50 metres from my office, says Renee, outside of Zurich in the industrial section of the town. Dietikon is maybe how I say that, probably wrong. Interesting that Tesla goes away from having a few roadside chargers to having 24 of them, says Renee. That was the email she sent me midweek when it looked like construction work was just finishing up. And then I see this article in Electrive today all about it, and it sheds more light on the email that I was sent. Well, Tesla has now opened its 18th and to date the largest supercharger location in Switzerland. It is this site that Renee sent me in Zurich, and it's now open. The special thing about it, in addition to 24 charging slots, it offers the first EV lounge in Europe. Well, previously the Californians had only pushed the construction of lounges in the US in combination with large charging parks, says Electrive.com. With the new Swiss location, Tesla is now beginning to implement its lounge concept in Europe. Well, the lounge offers a play and painting area for your kids, some table football, some console games, pull-up bars, a sofa, a dining area, and when the weather's good, an outdoor area accessible as well. Well, food can be bought from a vending machine too. I don't mind. If you go to a charging hub and there are some facilities there that need paying for, maybe the coffee is, not subsidised, but a reasonably high street price, the kind of price that you would normally pay. Maybe some vending machines that aren't cheap but aren't a rip-off. I would happily, as well as charging, use those facilities, go out of my way to use those facilities and to contribute to the business model, because that sounds like a wonderful way to spend some time. Thank you so much to anyone who sends me an email, by the way, and probably, if you're listening to this and you have sent me an email and not had a response, an apt time to offer an apology in advance. I mean, I'm not trying to say I get so many emails that I can't respond to them, but I know there's been a few that I haven't had time to get round to, and it really bugs me because I like to reply to every single person. It's just polite, right? Even if it does mean that I'm kind of sitting up long after Mrs. Lee has gone to bed, just going through the inbox. But if I haven't replied to you and you've sent me an email, I am sorry. I promise I will be better. The BMW i8 Roadster is next, and it's the new Formula E safety car. No spoilers, I'm not talking Formula E results, by the way, if you're still yet to catch up from the Monaco race, but BMW has shown the new official safety car from the Formula E Championship. Unveiled at the Yacht Club de Monaco, the safety car is based on the BMW i8, but this is the Roadster. Yes, it's topless, and it's gone through some modifications as well, says Autoblog. BMW says the vehicle's centre of gravity is 15 millimetres lower. No major structural modifications were needed for the safety car. The Roadster is stiff enough for safety car duty. Well, the aerodynamics package has been tailored for the occasion. A new front splitter and a rear wing as well, and a light bar as well. Of course, if you've got the safety car, you've got to have those lights flashing. When the lights go out on a safety car, you know it's pulling in this lap. Well, the brakes are M carbon ceramics, and the car benefits from the addition of the FIA approved roll bar, just in case. You'd hope the safety car wouldn't be involved in an incident though, but never say never. BMW says the i8 Roadster is the world's first open cockpit safety car. And I'll pop a link to Autoblog if you want to see some pickies. And the final story before we get into question of the week is all about Mercedes-Benz. And if you fancy doing some window shopping online and you're in the UK and maybe you just fancy having a look, the Mercedes-Benz new SUV is the EQC, and it's now on sale in the UK with prices starting at $65,640. Yeah, cheap it is not, but luxury it certainly is, says James for InsideEVs, powered by the 80 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery. The rival to the I-Pace and the e-tron will arrive in the UK this July. It's got a 259-mile range and 402 brake horsepower, but that 259-mile range is not on the EPA test cycle, the way the Americans measure it, and it is my favourite. It's the most realistic. They don't call it real world range, but I do like the way they do that. And I think that if you can get above the Audi e-tron in terms of range for the EQC with a much smaller battery, Audi e-tron, 95 kilowatt hour battery, enormously inefficient, just over 200 miles. The Mercedes-Benz EQC, this is just the way they've done it. A smaller battery, 80 kilowatt hours. I suspect they've had some breakthroughs on efficiency maybe, because they could have gone bigger with the batteries. Maybe they're going smaller, knowing that for the next couple of years, batteries aren't really going to be holding, the supply of batteries are holding all the car makers back, certainly. But if they can have a car that goes farther than the e-tron with a much smaller battery, well, that's going to be some very happy Mercedes-Benz engineers. 0 to 60 in over 5 seconds, top speed 111, the £66,000 asking price buys you the base variant, the EQC 400 Sport. Things like reversing cameras, heated seats, 19-inch wheels, couple of touch screens that sit side by side up front. One of the two digital displays is the conventional dials. The other is the in-car entertainment system, working in tandem with Mercedes-Benz MBUX system. The two can be customized to display really anything you want or the passengers want to look at on those two split screens. I'll pop a link to InsideEVs in the show notes for you to see more. Let's get on to our question of the week this week. And it all came actually from last weekend. I went back to see my dad has a BMW i3. He has the range extender. And when I was driving his BMW i3 around last weekend, it was a reminder, because I spend most of my time in the Zoe, and so when I drive another EV, or if I'm driving a Tesla, I'm always reminded how strong the regen is in those cars, and you have to modulate the accelerator much more. And the Zoe, it's interesting actually, if you haven't driven one or not aware of one where you're listening, the Renault Zoe, based on the Clio, is very much a car that the Renault wanted to make equivalent to a normal driving experience. So the gear selector is down where the manual stick shift would be. In order to get regen to work, you have to place your foot on the brake and then just gently depress the brake pedal, and the harder you press it, the more the car regens. So whereas with an EV, if you didn't know, by the way, with an EV, you let your foot off the accelerator, and even in a Tesla, you can engage different levels of regen, or in a car like the i3, like the Nissan Leaf with its e-pedal, and like the Kona with its regen paddles, where you can select how much the car slows down. The Zoe is a very analog experience. It's very much like driving a fossil car, but with a battery. And so I was asking you this week on Question of the Week, how much should EVs place their technology, because they are very tech, obviously, at the forefront of the experience, or hide it away? Well, Neil E. Roberts from Sussex EV says, I've always loved 80s and 90s concept car styling, so from a looks perspective, I'm all for EVs looking futuristic and pushing the boundaries. Always room for sensible looking cars. But as for the equipment, the whole EV package makes doing things differently a real possibility. This is a great way to show why an EV is the future. There are better ways of doing the things that we've always done. And that's what Neil says, who, funnily enough, was a couple of miles away from me today. And I couldn't manage to hook up with Neil. Obviously met Neil before at an event actually in London that was organised by Craig from the Renault Zoe Owners Club, and looking forward to meeting Neil and more of the gang from Sussex EVs, hopefully later this year. But back on topic, yeah, I know what you mean. Just because we've always put our foot on the brake to slow down doesn't mean you always have to. Well, Mark Bullock lives in Mississippi and says, I'm all for the multitude of bells and whistles in the current crop of EVs, but I would like a button to push that would configure the EV to a driver's favourite settings, or at least call it a dummy button, like a button for dummies that could be used for the Luddites that get in, that simply make it easy to drive one. Hello to John. John Fruworth says, I'm totally in favour of having EVs stand out from ICE cars. Electrification needs all of the visibility and publicity we can give them. There's nothing like having them stand out on the road to catch as many eyeballs and head turns as possible. We have to get people thinking electric as quickly as possible to overcome the enormous amount of FUD, what are the fudsters? The fear, the uncertainty and doubt. That's what it is, isn't it? Being propagated by the oil industry. Hello to Rajiv Narayan, who says, I see no reason for mainstream EVs to delay incorporating new features just to keep some customers comfortable. I say this because I've been teaching my daughter to drive in my Chevy Bolt. Although she struggles with the usual things that teenage drivers do, the one thing she has no issues with is technology. She effortlessly configures the information screens, the Bluetooth settings, the Apple CarPlay as if it was second nature. Well, Rajiv, of course, because she's grown up with it. Tech doesn't scare kids. When I explained that EVs can receive over-the-air updates, she wasn't surprised and went, well, how else would they do it? EVs in the US will supposedly achieve cost parity with ICE cars in 2023 and are projected to really take off around that time when she will be 23. People her age and maybe 5 to 10 years older than her are going to be buying their first and second cars by then. And finally, on Neil on YouTube says, there is space for both in EVs. Cars that celebrate being electric would generally be aimed at the younger or more tech-inclined market. Those cars that are more traditional in controls would be aimed at the older or conservative market, if you're not changing it by age. Obviously, that's a generalisation, he says, but it makes my point. As long as there is an EV for everyone, then everyone will drive EVs. Tesla's mission statement for more details. See Tesla for details. Thank you very much to all of the answers that I got this week, and thank you very much if you sent me yours. Right, time for a new question of the week this week, set by myev.com, and if you want to answer this, please do get involved with this. It's an interesting one, and it's one where from the outset, I'm going to say, you cannot sit on the fence. Anyone that says, well, it's a bit of both, I'm not going to read it out because I'm going to make you do at least 49% on this one. Which one's more important? With EVs, which is more important? In the week that the VW ID3, the big car from VW, the Tesla killer, is coming from VW. That's not my words, by the way, the words of others. They admitted that although some updates will be over the air, because they'll have connected SIM cards inside them, they'll update overnight in your driveway, you will have to take your car back to VW to be updated for some things. Teslas, of course, it's all about the updates, rewriting that software over and over again. So here's the question this week, and it's not as simple as you may... When you start to think about this, it's an interesting one. What's more important? Is it getting the hardware right or the software? What's more important with EVs? Is it a killer hardware spec, which then maybe the software takes a back seat, kind of an old infotainment system, can't do over-the-air updates, or is software more important, where if you have kind of some average hardware, like it's not best in class, you haven't got the best acceleration of it, but it's regularly updated because it's got great software, is that better? Not an easy one this week, is it? What's more important, hardware or software? Email me, hello@evnewsdaily.com, and you can leave a comment on YouTube or Facebook if you want to. Right, time for the endy bit. And our thanks to the Patreon fans, 212 of those. Phil Roberts from Electric Future, our premium partner of the show, and Brad Crosby as well, another premium partner. Thank you to Phil Roberts and Brad for your continued support of this show. Hello to our partners as well, David Allen, going right back to the beginning with David. Hello to OEM Audio of New Zealand and evpower.co.nz. Had a couple of emails from our Kiwi listeners over the months, thanking me for talking about evpower.co.nz. Hello to Paul O'Connor, a partner of this show, and at least for this month as well, as he says he wants to catch up for not having to not supporting for a while, is Blake Boland of EV Life Ireland. Thank you very much to our partners of the show. And all of our executive producers, that's you, Alan Robson, Alex Banahini, Alexander Frank, Anders Hove, Harold Gear-Skalsveen, Ashley Hill, Björn Fuchstak, Barry Penniston, Bob Muir, Borislav Borisov, Brent Kingsford, Brian Thompson, yes, Brian Weatherall, Cesar Trujillo, Chris Benson, Chris Hopkins, Craig Coles, Craig Rogers, Damien Davies, Darren Bird, Darren Sant from the Yorkshire EV Club, Dave Jewson, David Barkman, David Finch, David Partington, David Prescott, Derek Likes, Dirk Rutsatz, and a new owner of a Kona, and he likes it a lot, Don McAllister from screencastsonline.com, Enrico Stefanchillo, Frederick Robeck, Free Jewel, aka James, George Clargo, Jack Oakley, James Storr, Jason Fan, Jeff Irbies, Jerry Allison, Jill Smith, John Bailey, John from Kent EVs, aka Beardy McBeardface, John Nodell, John Timmis, Juan Gonzalez, Ken Morris, Kevin Masson, Lars Dallager, Lawrence D. Allen, Leo, Lejek Gil, Louis Hopkin, Luke Cully, Marcel Lohman, Marcel Ward, Marlin Shell, apologies, Martin Croft, Matt Piccioni, Matthew Ellis, Matthew Gruby, Maz Shah, Mia Oppelstrup and Michael Pastroni, Mike Rogers, Mike Winter, Nathan Gore Brown, Neil E. Roberts from Sussex EVs, Ohad Aston, Paul Seeger Smith, Paul Stevenson, Pete Glass, Philippe Michet, Philip Calvé, Raj Badwell, Rajiv Narayan, Ralph Jensen, Renee Schneider, Rob Cooling from appledriving.co.uk, Rupert Mitchell, Sarah McCann, Sari Kangasoja, Seiki Payne, Steve John, Stuart Hanna, The Limousine Line in Sydney, Tim Gutteridge, Walter McVeigh and Zach Hurst. Well, there are 468 previous shows online. Get the new ones first and free and automatically if you hit that subscribe button. Leave a review if you can, really helps me out. In the meantime, come and say hi on the socials by searching EV News Daily. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow, and remember, there is no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.